There you go, ladies and gentlemen, your brand new Formula 1 2021 SF21 Ferrari. What do we think? It's certainly a little bit more bold than we've seen over the last few years. It's certainly going to divide opinion. Up on screen now, after that little teaser trailer brought to you by Ferrari, we've got some clearer images of this year's car. And from a livery perspective, from a design perspective, it's just a bit of a mess. There's a little bit too much noise going on. It's very confused, I feel, with what kind of identity Ferrari want to have for this year, want to have going forward. And that's something we've seen throughout the team over the last few years. And I think that's really envisioned now in this year's design. What I mean by that, well, first up, the green. The elephant in the room, the Mission Winnow logo, looks so out of place with the rest of the vehicle. Why Ferrari did not push to have that made white like it's been the last few years, I do not know. We have also got a gradient at the rear of the vehicle, this matte red Ferrari that we've seen for the past 2 seasons. Many of you know I'm not a big fan of matte Formula 1 cars, especially Ferrari. Really do feel they need to go back to some kind of gloss, shiny, metallic paint at some stage. Fingers crossed for next season. They're sticking with the matte for this year, but at the rear of the car, they've got a matte paint finish of the burgundy they used for their metallic car at last year's Mugello Grand Prix. I don't think it's needed. I think that rear wing looks a little bit of a mess. Looks really, really dull at the back of the vehicle. I think keeping it all one colour worked so much better last season. A few more nitpicky details which I'm not a huge fan of. The halo. I say it with all the cars on this year's grid. Keep the halo in colour with the rest of the vehicle. It looks so much better, so much smarter. Look at images of the 2018 Ferrari. Granted, it was glossy, so I'm a little bit biased there. I prefer that livery. But the red halo in with the rest of the car looks 1,000,000% better. On this one, the black halo, sorry that I've pointed it out to you, but once you see it, it really sticks out and it just really bugs me. I know it's silly. The numbers on this year's Ferrari, the exact same typeface as once again they used at Mugello last season. They're fine, but I think when we're talking about Ferrari, what you really want to come away from it seeing and feeling is a smart car that means business. Those numbers, I know it sounds silly, are not smart numbers, are not fierce Ferrari numbers that reinforce that idea of winning. Again, I know it sounds so silly, but all these little things really do start to add up. And whereas 5 years ago, you never got a messy Ferrari, it was always very simple, always very in keeping. Sometimes they pushed it out there with a bold 2016 white engine cover. I really liked that. But it was still clean, it was still smart, and that's something I just find really lacking on this year's design. From an engineering perspective, I can see some changes, and if I can see some changes, there's been some pretty big changes, and that front wing is very, very different to last year's car, especially the nose of this Ferrari, like the majority of cars have done over the last few years, moving towards that little nozzle Mercedes style front wing and nose, which in theory should promote better racing for the car, a little bit more speed, a little bit more stability through the corners. But where this car really matters in terms of performance this year is the engine. Have they fixed it? We're going to have to wait and see in a few days' time once we hit testing. I'm not a big fan of this livery, so for one final time in 2021, we will head over to our car launch tier list. It's not a good one from Ferrari, and actually, I'm feeling like I'm having to hold myself back a little bit because I'm so disappointed with this year's car. They've got to do better next season. Is it in the bin? I don't think so. It's certainly close. I'm going to put it in bad alongside the Mercedes, but what I also would say is I think the Mercedes is a far better livery than this Ferrari. Mercedes has got that sticker bomb, which I'm really not a fan of, but the rest of it is great. Ferrari, very similar kind of position. The front half of this car is fine, doable, but whoever designed the rear of this vehicle, not sure. Really not sure. Mission Winnow, how many races it will be at this year, we don't know. But the green, just sticks out just that little bit too much. I wonder if they did it yellow. Oh, that could be fun. If it was yellow, something a little bit different, that might work. But green, it's not for me. It really, really isn't. I will be back tomorrow for the launch of the Racing Reviews podcast, 4 o'clock UK time in the afternoon. YouTube premiere for the first time on this channel. Hopefully you can join me in the live chat, but if not, don't you worry. Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, all that good stuff. Should be a lot of fun. Going to be going through some Formula 1 2021 bold predictions with a lot of very good friends. I'll keep you guessing on who we've got on the podcast tomorrow. But apart from that, testing is back this weekend. Formula 1 is back this weekend. Thank you all very much for watching. If you are new, feel free to subscribe, and I hope to see you all in the next one.